Hey, this is your host, Cedric Youngelman, and I'm warning you that you should brace yourself for an exhilarating journey through the Bitcoin matrix as we delve into a mind-blowing conversation with the extraordinary Tom Luongo. This episode is brought to you by River, the financial institution built for all time. With 100% full reserve custody and zero fees on recurring orders, River allows you to buy and mine Bitcoin with ease. Build your Bitcoin mining fleet today with River. Plus, River offers unparalleled service and functionality, including tax optimization, entity accounts, inheritance planning, and instant buy volume. Dollar cost average with zero fees. Smooth out the price volatility of Bitcoin and get zero fees on your Bitcoin purchases when you set up recurring orders. Instantly send and receive Bitcoin. No waiting, no worrying. Transact instantly and globally through the Lightning Network. Mine Bitcoin and get daily Bitcoin payouts. River manages the end-to-end mining process for you, including procuring, hosting, and maintenance. And for larger investments, River's expert team is here to serve you. With River, your Bitcoin is your Bitcoin. Unlike other exchanges, River builds security into every product and service for your peace of mind. River has 100% full reserve custody. All Bitcoin on River are held one-to-one. River does not use or lend your Bitcoin. Your Bitcoin is kept offline in cold storage and requires multiple signatures to identify and authorize a transaction. Buy and build your Bitcoin wealth with a Bitcoin-focused company. Use the link in the show notes to get started and earn up to $10,000 when you buy Bitcoin or miners at River. And for the ultimate in Bitcoin security and design, get the Cold Card hardware wallet from CoinKite now, not later. With built-in sleep at night technology, it's the only dedicated air-gapped, ultra-secure signing device for Bitcoin. It's definitely worth learning how to use it. And then check out the Block Clock Mini, the ultimate Bitcoin data display. This puppy is dope as fuck. It's over my left shoulder. Track the Bitcoin price, see blocks as they are published by miners, and connect the open dime to display balance, fiat value, and deposit QR codes on a timeless 7 e-ink digital display. What time is it? It's Moscow time. CoinKite is a leader in security and hardware manufacture, established block 141,000, and maker of some of the most iconic Bitcoin products, such as OpenDime, SatsCard, Tab Signer, SatsChip, Cold Card, and BlockLock. Don't trust, verify. Use the link in the show notes for a discount. If you're a regular listener of the podcast, there's a really easy way to show your support and help us grow. Download the Fountain app on iOS or Android. Follow the Bitcoin Matrix and start listening. You can share your thoughts on this episode by sending a boost and see what other listeners have to say, or create clips of the best moments. Getting started is easy. You can top up your Fountain wallet with a bank card. Oh, and you can earn money just by listening on Fountain too. It's a no-brainer. Visit fountain.fm to learn more. BitBlockBoom is not a shitcoin, NFT, or blockchain event. Join us for the 6th year as we talk about Bitcoin, the last weekend in August. Gary Leland, who's been on the show twice for 2 fantastic conversations, has rented an entire town for the welcome party that Thursday night before the last weekend in August. This is honestly the best Bitcoin conference in the world. Grab your spot now. Use the code MATRIX or the link in the show notes for a 10% discount on your tickets at bitblockboom.com. And now, prepare to have your perception shattered by Tom Luongo as we explore the myth of America, uncover the unexpected secrets of Waffle House and the Rosetta Stone, and navigate the treacherous waters of Powell's potentially game-changing rate hike to a jaw-dropping 7%. Keep in mind that we recorded this interview 2 weeks ago before Powell raised another 0.25. But that's not all. Tom's razor-sharp insights will lead us through the treacherous terrain of avoiding a civil war. Buckle up as we dissect the pulse of the economy, dissecting its every heartbeat and revealing the untold challenges that lie ahead. And let's not forget the exhilarating world of geopolitics, where Angela Merkel, Vladimir Putin, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and Klaus Schwab dance amidst the high-stakes game of power. Prepare to be dazzled as we venture into unexpected territories. Tom's expertise, laced with his wicked sense of humor, will keep you on the edge of your seat as we explore these mind-boggling subjects. Join us as we embark on this thrilling adventure, peeling back the layers of the Bitcoin matrix with Tom Luongo and unlocking the cryptic secrets that lie at the intersection of geopolitics, finance, and Bitcoin. Get ready to have your mind blown.
What is real? How do you define real?
You can't jump into cash. Cash is trash. What do? You get out.
Tom Luongo is a former research chemist and financial political commentator, specializing in the intersection of geopolitics, financial markets, gold, and cryptocurrencies. Publisher of Gold, Goats, and Guns blog and podcast, and the monthly Gold, Goats, and Guns newsletter through Patreon. Tom is a veritable OG in crypto, writing his first article on Bitcoin in July 2010. He is also the editor of Newsmax's Ultimate Wealth Report, as well as a contributor to Financial Intelligence Report newsletters. His work regularly appears on ZeroHedge, Investing.com, and LouRockwell.com. He lives on his hobby farm with his family, 5 dogs, a dozen goats, and some ducks. He doesn't jog, but he enjoys cigars, even cheap ones. Tom is out here decoding planet chaos one psyop at a time. Tom Luongo, welcome back to the Bitcoin Matrix. How the hell are you?
I'm good, Cedric. Thanks for the invite, as always. I hope you've been well.
I've been doing pretty good. I'm enjoying this hot summer we're having. I just love summer, so it's off to a nice start. Yeah. But what I want to know is, what do you make of the U.S. economy right now? How does it look to you?
It's a good question, really. It's really funny. It's a mess, and when you think about what the Fed has done, right? And they've raised interest rates at an unbelievable rate, along with doing quantitative tightening in the background, which is supposed to, these are not the droids you're looking for, as Daniel DiMartino Booth likes to put it. It's really funny when she does that. You realize that this is a big, big moment in time. And so the economy has now had to go through what is effectively like, okay, it's 104 degrees outside. You've been outside working all day in your yard and run the weed water. And the shock of all of that is what I think we're starting to deal with now. We're dealing with a credit deflationary environment. And that's exactly what Jerome Powell wanted. I mean, otherwise, why raise rates from 0 to 5.25% in 14 months? What else? It's not to fight inflation, folks. Like, that's, I'm sorry, I just don't buy that story. I never have. And it is about credit deflation, but at the same time, you still have, a veritable big put underneath or bid underneath the commodity markets. So in the world where you and I live every day, buying food, buying gasoline, trying to go out to dinner, things that we all have to do, take the kids back and forth to school and all that, buy dog food and all that stuff. Guess what? Commodity inflation is real, even though we've had a massive pump and dump in commodities over the last 18 to 24 months, right? But as I pointed out many times, if you look at, just go to investing.com, go to wherever you like, Yahoo Finance, whatever, and go look at commodity prices, right? You'll see that what used to be the ceilings on so many commodities, aluminum, copper, oats, soybeans, wheat, gasoline, whatever, not necessarily gasoline, but all of those, right? The copper, right? The strategic commodities necessary to run a modern economy. What used to be the ceilings on their prices, where, if you're a professional trader and oats were trading at $3 a bushel, you're like, it's a short. I don't care what it doesn't matter. I haven't looked at the USDA crop report. I don't care. $3 is a short. And then you see oats go to $6 and then come back and correct. And where is it now? The old ceiling is now the new floor. And that's where we are. Right. We're in that mode with something like copper, where $4 used to be the limit. Now, $3.50 is the new floor. And it's now pushing back up towards $4. Aluminum, $1 a pound. Like, you can go all the way through this on a regular basis. And you're like, okay, soybeans, wheat, corn, doesn't matter. So in the real world, we still have commodity inflation. Now, what we don't have is year over year commodity inflation because we went through the pump and dump, right? And the CPI report came out yesterday, and it was a little less than what people were expecting. Oh my God, the CPI is contracting faster than, the brightest minds in the world, who are usually wrong about everything, we're expecting. And now that sent the markets into a tizzy. Not really. There's a much deeper story than that. The reality is that June and July of last year were the worst month over month in the CPI over that previous 12 months. So we were expecting to see, the CPI come down drastically year over year because, just baseline effects, right? So I fully expected to see the CPI maybe undershoot, certainly hit that 3% area. And next month, I fully expect to see it hit somewhere around 2%. That doesn't mean that inflation is gone, because most of that inflation was in gasoline prices. Home prices haven't really started to fall off yet. Like this, we're still just getting into the credit asset deflationary portion of this process. So you have credit deflation and commodity, I wouldn't say inflation, but kind of stagnating right now year over year. But then we need to watch oil prices, and we need to watch gasoline prices, because that's going to inform everything else. And over the last 12 months, there has been a concerted effort by the Biden administration and the people I like to call Davos to push the price of oil down for a variety of geopolitical reasons. Starve Russia of oil revenue, blah, 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 blah. Get inflation down, all of that. So what do we have? Into a peaking U.S. Domestic production. If you look at U.S. production, it's peaking again, even though the Baker Hughes rig count topped out back in December, and the well count is going to start dropping, and production is going to peak soon, and then it's going to start to fall off again. So we had into a peak in U.S. production, which has been the marginal kind of production unit over the last couple of years. We had the Biden administration flooding domestic markets or global markets with the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, pushing the price of oil down. And then a lot of what I would call, if you've got professional traders in the audience, you know exactly what I'm about to say, the term vol washing, volatility washing, a lot of small specs out of the oil markets on the futures markets at ICE, the LBMA, in London and Chicago and Atlanta, in New York. So, but the spot market for oil, like the guys who are actually like loading oil on the ships are like, I don't know what the hell they're freaking smoking over in Atlanta, but for fuck's sake, dude, oil is not $65 a barrel, right? And we can see that in the discounts that the Russians are now getting for their oil at that time tremendously. It's up from that $30 everybody heard about a year ago. It's now back to $4 a barrel. Like the Russians are back to what they normally do, sell Urals grade for about $4 under Brent. It's back to actually normal. Okay. So now you're looking at all this and going, okay, so where are we going to go? What's the economy look like, knowing that we're probably looking at commodity inflation coming into the fall? Is it the return of inflation, or is the credit deflation going to crush any attempted rally in the CPI because of falling demand, no money floating around? This is the argument that the credit-focused analysts are there, I think, in my personal estimating this effect, whereas I look at it from a global demand for energy and commodities, and I'm like, yeah, but dude, there's still 2 billion people moving into the middle class. They may be moving in a little slower than everybody thought, but the reality is that the oil markets have become less efficient in moving oil from where it's produced to where it's needed. Demand is still rising, and OPEC Plus has cut production to offset what the Biden administration's done. And the Biden administration has drained the SPR, and they're going to have to start refilling it again. And so now the question is, do you really believe that there's not going to be more commodity inflation 6 months from now, and that the CPI is going to not rise, isn't going to rise again? And is that going to give Jerome Powell the rhetorical and political cover to continue raising interest rates, even though he's already pricked the credit bubble that hasn't even had a chance yet to really begin deflating? So again, you asked a simple question. It's a really, really complex answer. I hate to, filibuster on this and sound like I'm talking around it because I'm really not. I don't have a good answer. What I have is, I do have a good answer. Sorry. And that answer is that the economy is reorganizing exactly like it's supposed to when you prick a credit bubble. And then money now that money's expensive, as opposed to being at the zero bound and money's free, now all of a sudden what looked like a good idea a year ago, a lot of capital trapped underwater trying to figure out where to find a home and what it should do. And so we got a lot going on. And I think that reorganization, and it's going to continue to go to limp along for a while, because for the most part so far, this has been a white collar recession, right? It's been a lot of people with white collar jobs losing those jobs working for tech companies in Silicon, or at the higher levels of the economy. Usually when we have a credit bust like this, we have all the blue collar workers sent to the unemployment lines, and unemployment goes up drastically. And then you can see what happens at that point. And once that happens, that's much more politically charged, because those are the majority of the population. Those are the majority of the voters. We got a whole lot of, for lack of a better term, Tumblerina von safe spaces who no longer work at Twitter, complaining about the quality of the latte machine in the break room, living off of her generous sub package and having not gone to the unemployment line yet. And she's going to have to figure out real quick that, the purple hair and the nose ring don't cut it. And when you're trying to wait tables, and there's plenty of those jobs out there, because we're still working and we still want to go. And even if we don't dine on, even if we can't afford that 20 cowboy ribeye anymore, because 10% for the guys who still have jobs, they can still go to Texas Roadhouse and get a halfway decent steak for half the price. And by God, I know my Texas Roadhouse is always hiring, the one in Gainesville and the one in Lake City. So guess what? Same thing. Every restaurant I go to, they're starved for quality people, or wherever it is, in so many levels of this economy. And then, but here's the other, which we're of people who are, one, to fill some of the jobs in production and manufacturing that need to be filled. Right. I was arguing with some people on Twitter. I stirred up a shit car industry, and near and dear to my heart, because I love cars, and it's one of the things that I need to go to AA about, or Automotive's Anonymous. And and I said, look, the automotive industry is a mess because of CAFE regulations and all this other stuff, but we're in a moment in time when cars are getting really weird. Everybody's moving over to hybrids and twin turbocharged engines and all this weird stuff. And really what's happening is the complexity of cars, in order to meet the new regulatory standards, to meet the Great Reset and, Agenda 2030 and all that fucking rotten nonsense. The cars we're at the end of a lot of life cycles for a lot of models, and they're all getting replaced with infinitely more complex cars. Now, when you increase complexity, you increase the potential for failure. You also increase the initial there's just a lot more initial defects as these new systems have to be wrung out. And so even a vaunted manufacturer like Toyota is dealing with initial product quality issues that they've never seen since the 1970s, when Toyota literally drove an improvement across the entire automotive space for manufacturing, right? With the Toyota production system, Kaizen, and all these things that, anybody who's, even been remotely interested in any of the stuff knows all about. It's legendary. But even Toyota's running into problems now, because their cars are they can't rely on now 15, 18-year-old technology and sell it at a premium because it's reliable. They've got to move into these new systems. And interestingly enough, when I made that point on Twitter, I got a lot of pushback from, Toyota owners. And guess what? I also got a DM from a guy who literally said to me, dude, I've been working at the production line at Toyota for 15 years. And I can tell you that it's exactly what you're talking about. It's even worse than that, because we can't replace the people who are retiring. We can't get qualified people to come in and work the line. So even though we as a company haven't changed our ethos one iota, Toyota's quality is going to drop simply because we don't have the people. And this is that, and this is what's happening as the younger people move into the workforce, and they're not trained. And this is a fundamental problem we have within the United States economy. And it's not just the US economy. It's all across the West, right? And I don't know what we're going to do about it. And it's not a problem that you solve overnight, because these people all need to be retrained. Or even if they can be retrained, because I don't know if they have they don't have the metal, METTLE, to be retrained, right? Until we hit rock bottom, until they have to really figure out how to, pay for an apartment, car insurance, food, all the rest of it. And, I don't know. It's a weird time, man. It's a really weird time. So the economy is it's not going to be the economy that we've seen in the past. It's going to be a different economy in that respect.
Yeah, I can't agree more. It's a really weird time. I consult for companies in corporate America, some of the largest companies in the country, Fortune 20. My boutique consulting firm that I work for consults a lot of Fortune 500, and I see a lot of reorganization, like you're talking about. A lot of managers who don't know how to manage and are firing or releasing what is really the talent or the boots on the ground to make cost cuts, and not investing in systems, and disconnected from what's happening in the field, all sorts of issues like that. I also heard, though, there credit disinflation. We're entering that period, and with this reorganization, I want to talk about, you mentioned old ceilings is the new floor, and where Powell is right now with interest rates. So we what everything you just said, I mean, is, I think even corporate America is begging for rates to go low. You have a lot of zombie corporations that are not positive cash flow at these rates, and any rates higher. And some of these are very powerful companies that have just, rents seeked for a long time off of these low rates, and can cover up a lot of boo-boos and mistakes and scandals and all sorts of things through this.
Hey, man, they've been able to go out. Yeah, they've been able to buy back their own stock to dress up the balance sheet, the stock price, and all this stuff is zero bound,
and cover up everything, bad business strategy, whatever, bad back office. So where do we go from rates from here? I mean, it seems like things are going to bust. What I find interesting is, on the east end of Long Island, I was just up there for a wedding. Restaurants are packed. Here in Sarasota, I went to Miller's Ale House, which is like Texas Roadhouse. I mean, it's not an expensive place.
We have one.
Packed. They can't get enough help, but people are out the door waiting for a table. Right. At these new prices, everything. I mean, what's going to happen with rates, though? Everyone wants to know.
Well, okay. Well, Florida is not a case study for the rest of the economy, because everybody's moving here and it's all great, dude. That's and because that. Oh, by the way, we're now the bad guys because we're contributing to inflation, because our economy is so hot. So it's bad for the rest of it. They're trying to it's retarded.
There's always the Florida psyop.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely. It's more the Florida man thing, and Ron DeSantis is a moron, and it's all just like, it's the dumbest kind of talking points that come out of the skunk works in Brooklyn, that that the millennials that work for Hillary Clinton and the DNC think they're smart. Like, these people have never actually lived in the real world. It's hilarious what they come up with, and you just look at it.
My favorite is Florida man, because it's like they had to find someone who does nothing consistent, and it's just so random and bizarre and weird, and they're going to scare you with that. But no one's talking about Brooklyn man, or the Bronx man, or Chicago man,
or Seattle man, trying to take over declaring themselves independent, The Florida man is just hilarious, right? Because I look at it dude, you should meet some Florida guys I know. They're hilarious. They're great. They've tried to meme that into existence, and we just kind of look at it as old, I'm not OG Florida. I'm a transplant.
Neither am I.
But after 37 years, I'm almost accepted now down here. But we just you try and use Florida man and turn it into a derogatory term. We're just no, we just wear that shit like a badge of honor. We do wrestle alligators with a cigar in one hand, a beer in the other, and we rescue our dogs from alligators because we don't care, and we don't spill our drink or lose the cigar. It's whatever. So but as far as Powell's concerned, he's in a very interesting moment. For 2 weeks out from the next FOMC meeting, he didn't raise last time. He didn't need to. And I I don't think he's going to raise, even though the markets are screaming that he's going to raise, even though over the last 36 hours, the markets have all like the bond buying has been off the charts. The dollar's getting trashed. Gold is breaking out. Oil's breaking up. Everything's happening. It's all, oh my God, the dollar's going to die. And yet the Fed funds futures are 95% that he's going to raise in 2 weeks. Like something doesn't pass the sniff test here. Looking at the SOFR futures curve, I see a similar thing that he's going to raise rates. Okay, but he doesn't need to. Inflation is going to come in at less than 3%. If the PCE deflator comes in and his favorite inflation expectations metric comes in and he's not and it's not saying what he it's not screaming that he's got a problem yet. He doesn't need to raise rates. He can wait. On the other hand, German inflation is 6.4%. The euro is now $1.12 in order to offset the fact that oil is back to $80 a barrel. Remember, Europe doesn't function if oil prices rise in real terms in a FX adjusted terms for them. Europe goes into smoking ruins if that happens. Now, Powell could raise rates again, which would validate my argument that he's trying to kill the ECB, but he's already pretty much put the ECB in a box. And Lagarde is now trapped with European continental inflation at 6%. Is she going to stop raising rates? No. She's already made it abundantly clear she's going to keep raising rates, which is why everybody's piling into the euro. This is the big issue. The two areas of the world that are net energy importers, Japan and Europe, have been able to get away with their yield curve control. And Lagarde called it the transmission protection instrument this time last year. She's been clearly working credit spreads and across all the markets in Europe and the European sovereign bond markets. Ueda, the new guy over at the BOJ, hasn't had to deal with yield curve control just yet because in the wake of Silicon Valley Bank, there was a massive run of short covering on the Japanese 10-year, which dropped the rate on the Japanese 10-year below the limit at 0.5%. So that market's been a mess, right? A lot of short covering, a lot of, guys, piling into the short covering. It's just been all over the place. And into all of that, you've got Lagarde being able to manage credit spreads, and you can see and yields. And the interesting part about it is I've been tracking the U.S. German credit spreads, both the 2 and the 10-year for a couple of years now, and they've been tightening with the German debt rising faster than the American debt of similar maturity, which is what I expected. But at the same time, if you just go look at a chart, and I published this the other day in an article I published on the blog of the German 10-year, the Spanish 10-year, the Dutch 10-year, the Italian 10-year, it's very simple. You can just draw a line. You don't need to be a particularly astute technical analyst to be able to just draw a line and go, Lagarde's drawn a line in the sand here. Here's a big red line. Nope. Yields are not allowed to go above this level. Well, we hit that on Friday. And then all of a sudden, with a dovish CPI report, we've had a 25 basis point move in the entire long end of everybody's yield curve, including the US. It's like, yet again, when we get close to, oh my God, the ECB is going to go bankrupt. Oh, no, everybody, tamp it down. And it's it's been maniacal. It's been in my mind, it's been an outsized response to what I've seen from both the CPI report yesterday and the PPI's report from the US this morning. Someone pushed the panic button and began buying US debt like crazy. And me looking at the currencies and everything else, it's screaming the BOJ and the ECB. And we won't see this for 3 months until we get the TIC report for July to see because this happens all the time. And you can see it. There was the first wave of of Powell stealth tightening. We saw this. We saw the Asia Pacific region dumping treasuries. We saw the European zone buying treasuries and the rest of the world just kind of staying flat. So the TIC report was very interesting in how it laid out. And then the minute policy started to change, then the flows started to change. And this has been going on for a couple of years now. So it's not something I track on a weekly or monthly basis or anything, but every quarter or so I go back, I update my charts, I go look at the stuff, and we see where we are. But you can only make these arguments in hindsight because the TIC report is usually 2 to 3 months behind the calendar, right? So we'll get July's data in September, or maybe they're up to August, September or October. It used to be 3 months. It's now, I think, less than 2 months. But the reality is that we won't know what people are doing until it's way too late. And then all we can do is forensic evidence, and we can show you the smoking gun after. So now you're into, inferring what's going on by watching shit go down on a daily basis, and, getting you just gotta have to live in this space. And this is what I do. This is all I really watch anymore. But I do that knowing that this is the fight of the century. And because of that, I don't watch other things because I have to spend my time watching this. But now I glance at that every day. I update my daily charts. I keep my tabs on this interplay between all of these sovereign debt markets. And I know I'm missing stuff because there's no way I can look at it all. And I'm just saying, okay, it looks to me like this is what's going on. And it makes sense because the incentives are there, because, the ECB doesn't want to go bankrupt, doesn't want to prove to the world that it is. The BOJ is going to give up the last of the Bank of Japan is going to give up the last of its yield curve control and QE, when it absolutely has to. And that's going to be if commodity inflation returns and Japan's inflation starts really rising again. Japan's trailing 12-month inflation is 3% or 3.2%. That's a hell of a lot more than 0.46% on the Japanese 10-year. Okay, or negative 0.1% as the BOJ's benchmark lending rate. Ueda is going to have to let yields rise, because otherwise Mrs. Watanabe is going to stop buying Japanese government bonds. And the only people then who would be buying Japanese government bonds would be the carry traders in Europe and the United States, right? So what happens when they exit this market and the BOJ can't sell into that anymore? It's not going to work. What's really been happening has been a lot of short Japanese bond covering, short covering, and it's flowed, and all that money's flowed into the Nikkei, and the Nikkei's blown out to 35 grand and well on its way back to 40 grand to its all-time high. And I suspect the same thing's going to happen to the Dow. The Dow is sitting in this really tight freaking band between 32.8 on the low end and 34.7 on the high end. And it's just waiting for a fucking signal to go, that's it, we're gone. And then it's going to shoot to 38 grand, and every freaking hard money guy is going to be into the market. No, it's to float into tangible assets. No one wants to be in sovereign debt. That's not that tough. It's not hard. Gold's breaking out. The Dow's breaking out. Oil's breaking out. QE is gone. Price discovery. I mean, seriously, that's what's going on here. It's just price discovery. And and we're so not used to getting price discovery that we don't trust it when we see it. I think that's really where we are at this point. So, this is kind of what I'm seeing, Cedric. So I don't know. I think into all of this, then Powell sitting back raise, not raise, that's somebody else's problem. Because for years, it was always, the way I'm looking at it now is it's now, there aren't no dollars out there. And the dollar being weak here is just silly. Credit is collapsing. M2 is falling, not M2 money growth. It's now, M2 money growth is now negative. M2 is now falling. Okay. To tell me that the dollar is about to die is just fucking stupid. It's just dumb. That's not what's happening. What's happening here is that someone's running a psyop on you that in order to save their own asses, they're selling dollars because they got stocks of them and they're selling them in order to protect the real markets that they're worried about, which is the sovereign debt markets. And that's what they're doing. They're selling dollars. They're buying U.S. treasuries. They're manipulating credit spreads. And eventually that's all going to have to end because, in the immortal words of Margaret Thatcher, the only problem with socialism is that eventually you run out of other people's money. And even the central banks eventually run out of money because eventually they lose the trust of the markets that they're supposed to be regulating. So I don't know that we're still there yet, but I can tell you that the way the markets are trading now and have been since February, the markets believe every word that comes out of Jay Powell's mouth, and they're finally not believing words that come out of Christine Lagarde's mouth. Up until about February of this year, it was the exact opposite. No one believed anything Powell had to say, and they took everything that Lagarde said as fucking gospel law. And today, that is not the case. And so Chrissy has got a lot of work to do because all she can do here to regain the market's trust is to raise rates. The one thing she can't afford to do because she's now completely in the box and she's got all four fingers in Chinese finger traps and no way to wriggle out of it because she can't manipulate all four of them at the same time. And Powell has literally put her in that bind. And if I'm wrong about that, then Powell's going to give her what she needs. And I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Powell is going to do what's best for the United States, which means he may not raise rates in 2 weeks and give the market the whole banking industry the summer off to figure out how to reorganize capital at these new rates and let them take another 2 or 3 months to get used to 5.25% before he goes to 5.5% on his way to 6% when commodity inflation starts to return in the second half of this, maybe the fourth quarter of this year. That's the way I see it. Now, I could be wrong about that, but that's the way I see it.
Those are fantastic points, Tom. I want to touch on a few things there. I want to turn a little bit domestic before maybe we go international with geopolitics. And, the way you describe the economy there, with a lot of these asset classes are moving within a certain bandwidth and they're ready to bust out. I do think about maybe like the Weimar Republic and, just sort of everything goes up when, the value of the dollar goes down, not maybe the strength or, but I also think about the American project and where we're going into 2024. A lot of people think maybe about the housing market. I know my wife's a real estate broker here in Florida and it's still booming. Things are still, but, thinking about 2024, the presidential campaigns and elections, Biden, and maybe we'll get into a few of the others, but is Powell going to be pressured either indirectly or directly, or, is that sort of part of the job to pump the economy in 2024 for Biden / the American project and not be Weimar Republic or whatever have you?
Well, Bullard just announced today that he's stepping down. That's one of Powell's key allies, James Bullard, St. Louis Fed. They're trying desperately they just advanced 3 of the worst people on the board of governors through the Senate Banking Committee the other day, Lisa Cook and a couple other people. Daniel Booth has been like banging her shoe on the table about this one. They're clearly still trying to take all of Powell's allies away from him or make permanent people who are not Powell's allies. So they are still trying to get control of the Federal Reserve. And they're trying to, if anything, they may be just even trying to be Wade Powell's second term all the way out. But then we get into the election, right? If the Democrats are clearly trying to make the argument that the Fed has created this recession by raising rates, it's not going to work. You can't blame the Federal Reserve for a recession because you're in charge of public policy. The Fed is supposed to be an independent actor. Are you telling me that the Fed is now politicized? You, the people who have now politicized the FBI, the Supreme Court, every other non-political, you're telling me that now you've politicized the Fed as well? Really? Yeah, that's not going to fly. Most people don't even know what the fucking Federal Reserve is. All they know is that chicken's fucking $4 a pound. That's what they know. And they're going to blame Joe Biden on it. They're going to blame Joe Biden that gasoline's back over $4 a gallon, even though commercial real estate is going busto, even though the private equity guys are getting crushed. They're the ones who are going to be putting pressure on Powell to pivot, right? It's the Blackstones and the Apollo groups and all the rest of it. They're the ones who are going to be screaming. They are screaming. Okay. And we have, begun the shift from private equity being favored at the zero bound to private debt being favored at the not zero bound, at the normal normalization of rates. So then the bigger question is, are we going to see a rise in the long end of the yield curve and a normalization of the yield curve? And if that happens, what does that look like? And how do the regional banks that are stuffed to the gills with too much commercial real estate debt, what do they do about it? Well, they're going to have to start trading some of it, and they're going to have to start selling some of it off and taking write-downs in their balance sheets, and unfortunately raise capital in this environment. They don't really have a choice. So that's what Powell's saying to them. Go ahead and raise capital. Yeah, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Yeah, it's going to suck. It's not going to be easy. It's not easy for anybody, but we have to do this, because if we want to have a country post 2024, this is what we have to do, because there ain't no more morphine. The cabinet's dry. The liquor cabinet's empty. The medicine cabinet's empty, and the dealer's not and the morphine dealer isn't returning my calls. So we're done. And the hard money guys just don't want to hear this. They don't. I've been banging about this for I'm no less a hard money guy than I ever was. I still believe in gold, still believe in Bitcoin, I still believe in all this stuff. But the reality is that the incentives are there for the Fed and for the major banks, on Wall Street, and for a great swath of the American corporate sector to get our house in order. They get it, and they know that there's going to be pain. And the bigger problem is why have we been placed into this situation? Why is no one asking, especially in the hard money camp? This is what bothers me. Why are you not asking the question of why are we in this position? It's not just about, well, the Fed is evil and central banking sucks and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's true, but that's not all. That's not explanatory of everything. I wish it was. I used to be one of those guys. It was easy then. I also wasn't a pundit, and I also wasn't doing this well. And when I was one of those guys, every call I made for my newsletter when I worked for Newsmax failed. The market's telling you up your game, dude. You got to be better at this. So I could still be that guy, but I'd also be laying concrete for a living, because that would be the reality. So let's get better at it. We all need to get better at it, because if we understand where everybody's incentives lie, then we understand what their likely course of actions will be, and then what the likely reactions to their course of action will be. So it's not like Powell isn't under pressure. He is. He's under tremendous pressure. But at the same time, he has manipulated things into a moment in time where he now has optionality that he didn't have a year and a half ago. He now has the option. Do I raise here? Do I not raise here? If I don't raise here, is that good for the domestic economy? Sure. Will that also further my goals of deflating the offshore credit markets in dollars? If so, then I can not raise, and I can get away with it, and I can put the ball into somebody else's court. Because if Powell doesn't raise, it's no longer needs to be seen as, oh, he's going to pivot. Oh, he's going to pivot. He has to pivot. Because no, he's like, no, everything's kind of good. Everything's kind of worked out the way I wanted to. I'm showing confidence in the market. I'm not going back to QE. I'm not going back to, any of that. I am now comfortable with where things are. I project strength. Christine Lagarde, with a Bundesbank that is effectively bankrupt in Germany, has to raise rates because she's at negative 4%. Powell's at positive 2% and climbing. Yeah, he's got a banking industry. He's got credit unions that are a mess. You've got John Tewig wrote a great thing on his LinkedIn feed this morning about the fact that the credit unions are kind of upside down in their net interest margin business right now. And fair cop. It's a mess. It kind of sucks. They may have to go to the BTFP and borrow credit, and go get a loan at way too high a price. They have to go to their their members and go, we need a capital infusion, right? Or will you be happy with continuing to get 0.15% on your passbook savings account? In a 5% market, that's a tough sell. So, everybody's got to take a bite off the shit sandwich and deal with it. Now, let's start dealing with it. But we're not going to start dealing with it if Congress continues to spend in such a way that drunken sailors look at them and go, the fuck you doing, guys? And this is where we have to start reading the political tea leaves to figure out what's actually going on. So what happened at Vilnius at the NATO summit? They called off World War III. At least for 6 months to a year. That's a good thing. Because this thing was shaping up to be, let's invite Ukraine into NATO. The Brits were screaming for this. Let's invite NATO into Ukraine into NATO and create an Article 5 tripwire and go in there and kick the Russians' ass. And everybody at the Pentagon's like, are you nuts? With what? You already given them all the weapons. We already got special forces in there. We already got commanders in there, and we can't beat these people. We're going to fight a land war against the Russians in Russia. Yeah, I got some history books that say that doesn't go very fucking well. You people have tried this a lot of times. It doesn't work. So part of what I think we're seeing here as well is a kind of sigh of relief that's being, that's happening here, where people are going, you know what? I don't need to hold so many freaking dollars because of the war premium, because of the war, possibility. I gotta pay the war premium tax. I gotta pay the war tax. I better hold some dollars. No war tax, or at least no overt war tax, just more of the same kind of terrible grinding out of young Slavs in, a mud hole. Okay. Well, from a global capital perspective, that's far better than what we were staring at. And so maybe there's a little bit of that going on. If Powell continues to project strength, he'll just see capital inflow moving into the United States. And the weaker the dollar gets here, the more that's going to be real, right? Because the dollar gets weak here. This is one of the things that people tend to forget. And politicians really don't understand this. I was making this point this morning when I was doing my podcast for Newsmax. I do that Thursday mornings for UWR subscribers. I said, when I used to listen to a lot of British radio, I used to listen to Nigel Farage's radio show. And on the half hour, every 15 minutes, they would quote you what the British pound was. I don't know about you, but do we quote the US dollar index on the sevens here in the United States? No. But in Britain, they care about the pound, because without the pound, there is no United Kingdom, right? Without City of London, there is no United Kingdom at this point. So the value of the pound is very important to them, because strong pound, strong Britain. Weak pound, weak Britain. And it's a very stupid binary, false binary idea. And so a lot of politicians think strong currency, strong country. Weak currency, weak country. It's not necessarily the case. Strong currency at the wrong time, weak country. Strong currency at the right time, strong country. Depends on how it's managed. So everybody going, jumping for joy, the amount of jumping up and down and chest bumping that's going on today in the hard money camp about the dollar falling is like the same people who are cheering over the box office of the latest Indiana Jones movie because, dudes, you got it all wrong. They're trying to destroy that too. Like, by the way, the movie was fine. It was fun, actually, and actually brought a tear to my eye at the end, because it was kind of moving to see how it worked out. And I had no expectations going in. I expected it to suck, but I wasn't going to not go. Hell, I went to see Crystal Skull in the friggin' theaters. So I know.
Me too, I think.
But still,
number 4?
That was the fourth one. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that in the theaters.
Yeah, it was, it wasn't a good movie. Fine. But This one was fine, but why are you jumping up and down for joy for this? Because what's going to happen here is the dollar is going to be weak exactly at a moment when nobody else can afford their currency to be strong. And what's going to happen? Capital is going to flow out of there, move into the U.S., and you'll see a lot of foreign capital move in. Has anybody noticed? Has anybody been watching the Treasury auctions? I have. And the Treasury auctions have all been stellar. Foreign demand off the charts. Every time Zero Hedge does a thing, trade the latest 3-year auction, best auction on record. Really? And I remember everybody telling me 3 months ago there will be no demand for Janet Yellen's the massive amount of Treasury she was going to have to issue in order to refill the Treasury general account. I talked to David Hay, I talked to Daniel Booth, I talked to a whole bunch of people, and they all said, oh my God. I'm like, no. Foreign demand will be off the friggin' charts for U.S. Treasuries because there's been no fucking supply. And the rates will be high enough that they'll buy them in order to defend their currencies because they know the dollar is going to get stronger later. I've been watching central banks do this for years, and I see it all the time. And so to me, I look at this and I go, it's not playing out the way you thought. People are buying treasuries. You know, the dollar's weak. Guess what? Foreign demand is going to come in and is going to buy up U.S. assets, and someone's going to hold up some of those commercial real estate loans. Someone's going to come in and buy, you know, some of that stuff that's between the treasures and the trash in the private debt market. Some of that stuff in the middle, it's going to find bids. Because they're going to be like, maybe I will only take 30. I'll take 70. I'll buy it for 70 cents on the dollar and not 50 cents. That works for me at a 7% effective yield as opposed to 12%. There's going to be some people that come in and go, I can get 7% on a half-filled strip mall in Sarasota. You know, that the private equity guy is underwater on by 30% because he needs it to be filled, and it's only half filled, but I can make money at 7% on it. I can live with that. Something's going to happen here. Something's going to give, right? So, like, this shit's going to happen. And if we wind up in what is a classic, I don't know if you've ever listened to Martin Armstrong talk about the false move down, right? Technically, that's the moment where a market goes too far to the downside and falls too far. All right, false move up, false move down, same thing. Like it's a false breakout. It's also a false collapse. And you wind up where the shorts pile on too far and drop the price of something way below where it should be, creating a whole bunch of freaking longs that then trap them with, you know, where you've got sentiment at 95.5. Now, I'm not saying that that's where we are with the dollar today. We may see the dollar index with today's breakdown drop down to 96. I don't know. If you're not a buyer of dollars with the U.S. dollar index at 96, you're a fucking idiot. I'm done. You're dumb. Like, at the very least, it's like buying the euro at 95 cents last fall and say, oh, it's going to go to 70. I was hoping it would go to 70 just because I want to see the European Union die for the good of humanity. But I knew, like, Christ, it's going to bounce here. It's probably going to bounce for a year. All right, fine. But, you know, the U.S. dollar at 96, that would imply like the euro at $1.16. How in the hell is Germany going to export anything outside of the EU with the euro at $1.16 and the Chinese yuan at, you know, I mean, really? And the yuan at, you know, 7.20. The 7.2 and the yen. Are you nuts? Are you kidding me? Like, no, it's not going to happen. What's going to happen is the dollar is going to bounce off of that, and then there's going to be a massive short covering rally in the opposite direction. You're going to get a false move down and then a new rally. We saw this in the Dow earlier in the year during the Silicon Valley. I was talking earlier about the tight band that the Dow has been trading in, but if you go back to the bank failures, it dipped below out of that tight band for about 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh, false move down. Rallied right back to the top of the range. And then it's been coiling, and then it's been bouncing since then. Doesn't know what to do because it hasn't gotten a signal that it can go higher. But that catalyst will come. I don't know what that catalyst is going to be, but when that catalyst comes, you should be ready, right? If you're smart, I mean, anybody's trading the Dow right now can see exactly what I'm talking about. It's not like it's hard to see. So like, this is the way this is the way I'm looking at this stuff. And so I don't know. I mean, though, I just think Powell has all the options to sit there and go, okay, it's now our dollars, your problem. That's the thing. And so don't jump up and down at this point, especially if you're a Bitcoin guy, that the dollar is going weak. That would be good. That may be a catalyst for Bitcoin to pop to 35 grand or 40 grand. Fine. I mean, but it won't be because of a weak dollar trade. It'll be for other reasons. Okay. It's not because Bitcoin tomorrow is going to become the friggin', reserve currency of the world. That's not happening. It may happen before I die, and if it does, great. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But, it's certainly not ready for it yet. And certainly there are too many people who are in power don't believe that it should. And they, by the way, have more capital than you do. So,
well, speaking of the world and speaking of people in power, I can't help but jump to Russia, Ukraine, Putin. I mean, how does this affect Powell, Biden, America? I mean, what is going on over there in your opinion? And I really want to tie in here England's part in all this. I mean,
oh God.
And maybe like how important, pricing is to the UK and what they might be trying to drag us into. I don't know, but
right. Well, the what I can say about the British is the following. I did a 2.5 hour podcast with Richard Powell recently. Like, if we don't want to be here all night, like, we should just, and he and I only scratched the surface of the perfidiousness of Albion. Let's just put it that way. They are clearly trying to drag us into their 300-year project to destroy what they think is the other great empire in the world. And now that we're in July and LIBOR is now dead, City of London now no longer controls anything in terms of our debt indexing rates. Right. SOFR is now the law of the land. Everything is, I mean, it's been that way in the United States domestically for a long time, but all debt that hasn't been fully re-indexed to SOFR legally still trades as if it's bound to SOFR. It's not bound to LIBOR anymore at all. So the LIBOR quote's irrelevant, except for London banks, which is nice, but it has no effect on your credit union anymore, which is good. So again, where Powell's declaring independence from the central banking cartel. And the most powerful single central bank in the world has said, you know what? No, that's not what we're doing. We're not here to make the world safe for climate change. We're not here to, subsidize European communism anymore. We're not. This is an idea whose time has come and gone. This is a bill we can no longer float. We have no more balance sheet room to pay for it, and we're not going to. Sink or swim, folks. And he's been very clear about this, but he can't say that. Okay, he's just not a lie. He can't say that. Like, you want to talk about if he were to actually say that, there would be a call for the removal of the Federal Reserve's charter, hit the floor of Congress and the Senate simultaneously so fast. Well, I don't know. You thought of Ferrari went driving by. Like, it would be crazy how quickly that would happen. So he can't say that because it's politically just verboten. But that's what he's doing. If you read between the lines and you listen to him carefully, it's clearly what he's doing. And inflation is just the cover story. And we're finally starting to see it, like these ideas trickle into the gold community. It's great. I saw a great article the other day from Matterhorn. Egon von Greyer's group wrote an article actually quoting me. Not that I care that they quoted me, but that they were talking about, and they were giving credence to the idea that maybe Powell's misunderstood. What Powell's doing is misunderstood. It's fine. I don't need the validation on this. What I need is for the ideas to propagate and for people to think about them seriously, right? That's a win for me. I don't give a crap if I even get credit for it, because all that matters is the truth, right? All that matters is that we figure out what's going on And like good scientists and good collegiates, so, like good colleagues, we bandy ideas back and forth amongst each other, put hypotheses on the table, falsify them or not, and move on. Like that's what we should be doing. And I'm not saying that, I do it perfectly or anything. I don't, but you try and do the best you can with the information that you have and you go from there. So what's happening in the world is that because of aggressive U.S. policy and certainly unbelievably irresponsible policy from the Biden administration, foreign policy of the Biden administration on every front, which I think has been a feature of the Biden administration, not a bug. They've done this on purpose for the purpose of destroying the validity of what's left of the validity of the United States as the leader of the world. Okay. And the leader of the free world, or whatever you want to call it. And, to make the Caitlin Johnstones of the world wet their panties, for Christ's sake. It's just pathetic. And I look at that and I see it's clearly an operation. It's clearly a kind of psyop. When the reality is that, look, we got a lot of, there's nothing about the United States policy that there's many things I have criticisms of. There's many things I criticize Europe of. I think Europe's far worse than we are. But the American people don't want this. And yet we're being frog marched towards it. Right. So maybe you should look past what the Biden administration is doing and saying that's just typical American policy. And you should ask yourself, maybe it really isn't. Maybe it really is an outgrowth of other more internecine and older structures that transcend borders and definitions and, and all of these labels. And that's a bigger thing. Let's create new labels to try and explain that have more explanatory purpose than just Britain, the United States, Europe, whatever. And that's why I think I successfully popularized the Davos concept, which is now fucking everywhere, which is that this is what's going on here. These globalists, that's an outgrowth of the whole Alex Jones rant about globalists 25 years ago. It turns out that he was right about all that shit. Even when I remember when I had hair and it was black, listening to Alex Jones going, this guy's out there, but he's kind of fun and he's entertaining. And I think he's a spook, but you know what? He may not be wrong. I'm still on the fence about Alex, but I love the fact that he exists. Right. And every once in a while I tune into him to see where he is. But the rest of the world is getting tired of this game that we're playing about how do we, the collective West, and the various factions within it that are trying to control what is the collective West. And there are about 5 of those now, and they're all fighting amongst themselves, and they all fought amongst themselves at Vilnius at the NATO summit, which is why World War III got called off, because they couldn't come to a consensus on anything. That's a good thing. But the rest of the world is sitting there going, okay, if I wanted to talk to somebody to negotiate a settlement between East and West, who the fuck do I talk to? I don't know. Biden's clearly not in charge. Neither is Victoria Nuland. Neither is Samantha Power. Neither is Rishi Sunak. Neither is Emmanuel Macron. Klaus Schwab wears frigging Klingon gear. Who do I talk to? The Chinese just told Bill Gates to go himself. Who do you talk to? Or is it just a matter of a whole bunch of lower level people talking amongst themselves and keeping the figureheads at the top from doing anything unbelievably stupid? And I've said for a long, long time that if we were going to get out of this alive, it was probably going to bypass many of the generals, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the president and the political arm of these countries. And it was going to come down to the full bird colonels and the people who run, some of the military contractors and whatnot, that they were going to finally sit down, talk amongst themselves, and then finally filter the right information up to the right people. And eventually rationality would take hold and start dictating some terms. Maybe that's what we saw at Vilnius. That would be good. But if I'm Putin, who the fuck do I talk to? It's like that I can't remember the movie it was in, but it was like, who do I got to blow to get a waffle over here? Cancel the waffle. Like, this is Putin. Who do I got to blow to get get somebody on the phone I can negotiate with? Nobody. I can't even answer that question and cancel the friggin' waffle, for Christ's sake. It's like, this is the fundamental problem. So what you're seeing Putin doing very smartly is he can't talk to any of the main people. He can't talk to Macron, can't talk to Sunak, can't talk to Biden. He's trying to peel off all of Eastern Europe one by one by one with trade deals, Hungary, Serbia, he's trying to open up talks with Bulgaria and, the Czech Republic, and working with those people behind the scenes and maneuvering things in Ukraine in such a way and keeping the door to negotiation open by not declaring war on Ukraine, even though they richly freaking deserve it at this point for what has been done. Acts of war on Russian soil, on Russian infrastructure have been done, organized by the Brits and the Poles, and the Kerch Strait, Nord Stream 2, the bombing of arms depots in Belgorod, and all the rest of it. These are acts of war. These are easily things that Putin could go to the Duma and say, I want to declare war on Ukraine, and then fully mobilize and fully industrialize the economy and start doing the thing. But he knows that if he does that, the West will do the same thing in return. And that's the last thing he wants. What he wants is to figure out a way to negotiate his way out of this. So he's always, by not doing any of that, he's left the door open to negotiations. It's cost him politically at home. It cost him Prigozhin's rebellion and a variety of other things. But he's managing it as best as one can manage it under these circumstances. Okay? Because the Russian hardliners want him to repay us for the punches in the mouth that they've taken. And rightly so, because their pride has been hurt and blah, 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 and they look weak. But again, weak currency does not necessarily mean a weak country. Weak military response to a punch in the mouth does not mean you're a weak man. Sometimes you got to take a punch in the mouth to achieve a larger goal. And so, I'll be honest, I'm hoping that, for the next 6 months or so, things will calm down and we can transfer our worry in the capital markets. We can transfer that worry out of that sphere and then really have everybody start really looking at what's going on national balance sheets and the trajectory of inflation and the cost of commodities and all the things we talked about at the beginning of this. Because once that really happens, you'll start seeing capital flow shift in such a way that they will not be able to keep these asset prices within the boxes that they have drawn around them. And then shit will start breaking and breaking hard. And when it does, everybody who thinks that the dollar is about to die is going to find out real goddamn quick that as bad as our situation may be, it's far better than everybody else's. Because we still have the global reserve currency, and that means something. And at the same time, sure, the BRICS are declaring their independence. They're setting up an infrastructure to settle cross-border trade and local currencies, but do the accounting in gold, right? And tokenized gold. That's what they're doing. That's what this BRICS currency is. It's not a currency. It's an accounting system. Vince Lanci and I did a 2.5-hour podcast with Palisades Gold Radio where we tried to explain the nuts of, well, really Vince more than me, because Vince did a phenomenal job in that podcast. I listened to it and I was like, dude, that was well done. I went over it because I was like, yeah, you're right. I was learning shit as he was going. It was great. So, which is why I always like talking to Vince. He's always illuminating. And you should have him on the show, by the way, if you haven't. So, it's about infrastructure and it's about settlement in a way that builds trust across borders and across, because all these countries don't necessarily still trust each other. But if they have a network where they can settle up and means by which to do so, and they don't have to build up huge stocks of each other's currencies and then recycle that into debt and all the rest of it, but they have a way of, laying that off as a deficit against sovereign gold reserves. Well, that's a win-win for everybody. Now you can build trust over time. And I mean, these are all ideas that it's now, just think of it this way, as a continent-wide idea version of what Shanghai put in place, what China put in place when they did the Shanghai oil contract. But they had an outlet to convert profit for the traders in gold, so they didn't have to hold on to yuan. It's the same thing, right? There are two gold exchanges, one onshore and one offshore in Hong Kong, and you can convert your profits on the Shifi oil contract into gold and then transfer it offshore. So think of the BRICS announcement that's upcoming as that, but for most of Asia and South America. That's what that's going to be. And once that, and it's already been proven that it works because the Shifi oil contract is great and runs. And so you go from there. So that's what they're doing. And I think Powell understands all this stuff, and he has to soak up all of those dollars that are overseas. He doesn't have a choice. And he might not be able to soak them up fast enough. And so maybe the dollar will drop. It doesn't mean it's over. It just means that things are changing. And change is not a bad thing, especially if you've got a Federal Reserve chairman who doesn't want the dollar to be the global reserve currency anymore. Imagine what the United States would look like at that point.
Powell's it's interesting person. I still don't know where he gets the balls to stand up to all these factions. I mean, the Davos crowd, Congress, Biden. I mean,
Wall Street.
What?
Wall Street. Wall Street has to be behind.
But I don't think any of those factions really respect Jamie Dimon, as Powell.
No, they don't. They don't. But he's still saying, he still goes out and sets policy.
Right.
He still meets with members of the friggin' Chinese Politburo and gets the royal treatment at a summit he puts together, as a business symposium he puts together with all the major Chinese CEOs and members of the Politburo. And Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, is like escorted off the plane into the back room off the visitor's bathroom. Like, it's retarded. Like, come on, man. Like the difference between how Powell and the head of the PBOC have interacted, in the way Diamond was treated when he went over there, and the way Yellen was treated over there, everything you needed to know. It's just like that picture of Zelensky standing around looking lost at the cocktail party at Vilnius the other day, and you're like, dudes, like, that's the way all of the Biden administration has been treated by the Chinese every time they've gone over there. Look, the Chinese and the Indians are supposed to be like enemies, and yet Modi is treated better. Prime Minister Modi of India is treated better by the Chinese than all the Americans are. Just saying.
Do they want Putin gone?
Who?
Davos crowd.
Oh God, yes, they want Putin dead. They've tried to kill him like half a dozen times. He's just too wily for them. I mean, he got rid of most of their agents. Like, and I just think it's true. So, I mean, look, Putin is not perfect. He's made a lot of mistakes in his life. Trusting the Germans is one of them, or specifically Merkel. But, no one is perfect. Everybody does the best with, and if Putin has a fault, it's in believing that he could split the Germans away from the rest of Europe. And his time that he was stationed in East Germany when he was a young KGB officer was used against him. It was classic moment of one ex-intelligence officer outwitting another ex-intelligence officer, Merkel versus Putin, over Nord Stream and everything that happened. Minsk II, all of that stuff. She used him like badly. And just egregiously. And, it's the ex-KGB versus ex-Stasi. That's what happened. So if you didn't know that Merkel was ex-Stasi, these things are important. So, that's kind of the state. What's that?
She was always painted a little bit as the fool in their interactions in the press.
Of course. No way. She knew exactly what she was doing. She was always Klaus Schwab's pet. Always. always and everywhere. She manipulated German politics internally in such a way as to create the current unbelievably bad state of affairs where the Greens basically run the country. And they never had for any reasonable length of time more than what, 15% of the vote? And in many places, they rule in state governments where they have 5% support. But because of the way the German upper house is designed and the way it votes, each state votes as a block, meaning if one member of the coalition if you have like three parties in the block in say Rhineland-Westphalia, right? And it's mostly SPD, mostly SPD and one Green. And the SPD all want to vote against this particular bill. The Greenie just holds their fucking nose and says, now, and they veto everything until they finally get their way. Like the Greens have veto power over 2/3 or more of the German upper house. And they control in almost every one of these governments. They are the junior partner of even a 3-party coalition. It's pathetic how the Germans are being represented ultimately by less than 12% of the population. It would be like AOC. It would be like the Squad running Congress and having veto power over all of Congress or the Senate.
Right.
By controlling, by forcing every committee in Congress to have to vote as a block on every, and agree, have a unanimous consent on every friggin' thing that came up for vote. And all they would do is hold their nose. And they'd be, Jack Lemmon in the remake of 12 Angry Men, even though, he was actually rational, right? But they're not. They're committed ideologues and scumbags and commies.
Right. Well, speaking of scumbags, commies, and I guess liberals, we will throw conservatives in there. Do you think the next U.S. election matters? I'm not asking you whether you're going to vote. Just, is this going to have impact on our lives? Do you care about this election?
I do, but I don't. I care about the election, but I don't think it'll matter. Like, I don't, I don't remember. I don't know if you're still like recording if you're still distributing on YouTube or not. So I'll try and keep my comments as YouTube friendly as possible. I think we're at the point now where voting changed anything they would have outlawed 8 years ago. They're clearly moving in a direction in every level to make sure that voting does not matter. And that includes like corporate boards, dog catcher, school boards, everything. It doesn't matter. At this point, it's now, we have found the way to game the system, and we have X+1 amount of control over that particular thing. And where we have that, we play that as if we have complete and utter control over it. That's where we are. It doesn't matter. It just go look everywhere we are. That's where it is. And when you see that, that's the hand of Davos in every, and that's the simplest way to put it at this point. That's the hand of Davos. It's crazy, but it's what we have. So will the elections matter? Well, we'll see if what I feel are the counter-revolutionary forces. If they put some real wins up on the board, I don't think they will. I know that part of what Powell's been trying to do is take all their money away from them, take all their secret funding sources away from them. The euro dollar or the offshore dollar leverage is like the fentanyl crisis here in the United States. Being these are dollars being sent overseas and smuggled back across the border into our country to buy elections, buy AGs, buy attorneys general, buy judges and this and that, everything else, and in order to clog up the system, in order to grind the bureaucracy to a halt and force us, if we can't get stuff done legislatively or through executive order in the Biden White House, then they gum up the works regulatorily. Okay. And that brings me, I mean, again, we could do another fucking 45 minutes on my complaints about the car market and how CAFE has destroyed and legislated out of existence plenty of, cars that would be affordable even that we need right now for this moment in the credit cycle, and we can't get them because the CAFE standards are pushing the cost of normal automobiles of low complexity. They pushed them all off the market. You can't get a small pickup truck with a 4-cylinder engine and a manual transmission and 2 seats. Why? Because it needs to get 49 miles to the gallon on an internal combustion engine or higher or whatever the number is. It's off the charts. It's impossible for them to get it, which is why, for example, trucks are so big. Trucks are so big because they have to have a footprint that fits under the CAFE regulations to get the mileage that they're allowed to get without being fined to the point where that car is no longer economically viable. And we're already at that point. This is why the Charger and the Challenger are going away. It's why Dodge is getting rid of the Hemi 5.7 liter V8 and the 3.6 liter Pentastar. Even though they're great engines, there's nothing wrong with them. They just don't get enough gas mileage. And the truck, they had to put them in trucks that were the size of, a yacht to be able to, make it work. The engineering. We have reached the point of engineering collapse in the car market. And it's all, again, regulatorily designed to ensure that we are pushed into making rational decisions that they want us to make. And then put us in a planned obsolescence vehicle that will last no more than 5 or 6 years, that we have a 7-year loan on, and that we're upside down on even after 6 years in the loan. But we need the car to get to work. Well, no, you could always move into a 15-minute city and walk to work every day and live in your pod. We're not forcing you to do it. We're not forcing the companies not to make these trucks. We're just laying a $12,000 fine on each car and saying, well, you can't get that car that you would have been able to sell for $18,000. Now you got to charge $30,000 for, and no one wants to spend $30,000 on a 2-seater beater pickup truck with a 2.5 liter engine and a manual transmission. But we didn't tell you couldn't make one. Yeah, pull the other leg. It plays fucking Jingle Bells, asshole. Like this is the game they play. And honestly, if there's one thing that has happened this year that I am more angry about than anything else, and wow, it's that the Supreme Court bowed to political pressure to put off their judgment about the Chevron doctrine until next year. Because if they had gotten rid of the Chevron doctrine this year, it would have forced all of this legislation, all of these rules and these regulations that have been incorporated into legislation by rote, saying whatever the regulatory agencies, the Chevron doctrine basically gives legislative power to the regulatory agencies by saying Congress gave them the ability to say, well, whatever the regulatory agencies want us to do, that's what the law says we should do, which is why they can continually move the goalposts and not have to re-legislate. You take away the Chevron doctrine, you force the Supreme Court to put that up on the table and say and rule against it. Now, all of this, every freaking bit of the regulatory system has to be re-legislated. And all the bills and all the laws have to be rewritten. And now we can have fights in Congress over it. And they don't want to do that with a majority in Congress that's Republican, or at least fiscally conservative. And that includes the Democrats, the squishy Democrats in the middle who are coming up for re-election this year in 2024, both the House and the Senate. You can imagine what the auto industry would do to CAFE if the Chevron doctrine went away. All those cars that we see on YouTube that you can buy them in Brazil, and you travel to Mexico and you see all these really cool cars that we can't have in the United States. It's all CAFE. Every bit of it. We can have them all. Not allowed. Can't have them. Can't do it. Volkswagen, for example, Volkswagen never brought the Aramac over here because it was too small. It wasn't too small for the American consumer. It was too small to reach the the regulatory standards. They couldn't put a gasoline engine in the damn thing and a transmission in it that would meet the CAFE standards. They could only sell it overseas as a diesel or whatever. I'm sure there's gas models of the air. But just as another example of these things. I mean, it's why Toyota's going to twin turbocharging in the Tacoma. It's a bad idea. It's a bad idea, but they're going to do it. And the trucks will be, and if you're in the upper 5% of income earners in the United States and you change your car every 3 years, you don't give a shit. Just spend the extra 10 grand, whatever. It's like buy another car. But for everybody else, they want to push you into EVs where a new battery pack is a totaling event. No, it's clearly what they're trying to do is Klaus Schwab's made it abundantly clear. We want to get rid of individual personal transportation. He's clearly never been to Kansas. Fuck, yeah. He's never been to Florida. And Florida's dense. There's a city every hour. But, Europeans, they think 100 miles is a long way, and Americans think 100 years is a long time. These people just need to go away. They need to all be sent to homes and all the rules, thrown out, and we get back to rationality. And could you imagine if like the Ford Maverick is not even a good car, right? And by the way, Ford now doesn't even sell it at the $20,000 price point that they said. The next year, the base model will be 26, by the way, and it will be the non-hybrid version. The hybrid version will be more expensive because they were losing their ass on the $20,000 Maverick with the hybrid. They sold those were all loss leaders at Ford's. Go look at Ford's stock and its balance sheet and its friggin' and its financials. It's clear that they were selling shit tons of Mavericks. And they were losing money on them, so they stopped making them. It's not hard to figure out, guys. So, could you imagine how much capital could be freed up in the United States if we could buy rational cars again? How much the middle class would become vibrant, and we would and all those unfunded liabilities and all that extra interest on the debt and all this shit that everybody yells at me about. So there's no way Powell can pull this off, and they've got to pivot, go back to the zero bound. You're a fucking idiot. I'm like, fuck you. You give me an $18,000 friggin' small pickup truck that small businesses can use to run their friggin' businesses on, and I show you that gets 40 miles to the gallon, or 35, and I show you an American economy that takes off like a friggin' shot. Fuck off. You just have no fucking clues to what you're talking about. It gets me so angry. And these people think they're smart because they are in Bitcoin. I'm like, sorry, man. Like, I love Bitcoin, but I don't, but I'm over. It's the same thing with gold bugs. I'm over them too. Like, we've got real work to do. We've got a society falling apart because we've got busybodies running around thinking that that Terry Gilliam's Brazil was an operating manual. Worse than 1984, because it was a bureaucratic state run amok. And that somehow it's the price of civilization. We have to pay for these people. Do you really hear this shit? Taxes are the prices we have to pay for civilization. No, they're not. The price we have to pay to not listen to you whine about not having any fucking skills because you don't want to work for a living. Sorry.
I think you bring up a really good point around. I think there is this sort of notion of, hey, I can hold my hard assets, my hard money, and one day everything's going to work out for me. And what I don't think that's really thinking about is one, putting your money to work, but really what I'm saying is betting on yourself. So maybe starting a business or investing your money in a business or some venture that's going to create more money rather than just, hey, I'm going to drop out, tune out, and sit on my ass and hope for the best.
Right.
I think, there can be a balance between the two, but you definitely,
there is.
I think it's important that the best and brightest in society are really busting their ass and trying to create more value than just trying to accumulate whatever or hold on to whatever they have, But But not but so you know, we talked about 4 years. You know, most Americans can't think really about 4 years or maybe 100 years. I agree. But I do want to talk about the next year and the campaign. And
well, I think I think that the last point you just made, I think, is actually the thing we really need to like hit harder on. Like, it's really important. Like, there's this kind of magical, like, everybody is susceptible to magical thinking. I'm me, you, everybody. And when I go on one of my, you know, anti-gold bug, anti-Bitcoiner rants at this point, I'm doing so because that's exactly what you just mentioned, which is that there's this, okay, you're tuning out. You're not building anything. You're not doing anything. You're just sitting on the sidelines saying, I don't believe in anything except this. I don't believe in myself. I want to be right more than I want to build anything or build a community or this or that or anything else. No. I mean, I understand that there are plenty of guys who are in crypto or in Bitcoin or whatever, trying to build better tools, be it better social media, better banks, better this, better that. I get it. And I applaud all those people. That Caitlin on my podcast, she's awesome. The guys, I have a soft spot for Nostr, even though I'm not on it. Like, I love my Twitter feed, but you know, if someone wanted to give me a better social media platform than Twitter to build my business on, I'm all over it. But I can barely manage a Twitter feed on a daily basis and still get any work out the door. So but I'm ready to, I'm always willing to ditch the convenience premium and move to the other thing. I don't have a problem with it. And then, you know, but the point is that you got to realize that just because you may think you have the Rosetta Stone for how to fix society at some point in the future, you don't know when that point in the future is going to be. You could be waiting your whole life for it. I waited for an awfully long time and then finally had to like grow up and become, you know, and actually go out and do and do it. Right. And so then you get into this world of going, okay, you can't wait forever. You can't be Peter Schiff and just keep waiting for the death of the dollar and gold is going to do everything tomorrow. Like, fuck that guy. He's like, it's so annoying. He's bad for the brand. He's bad for gold. He's bad for Bitcoin. He's bad for everybody. Not bad for Bitcoin because he hates it. He's bad for Bitcoin because he's trashing the notion that hard money advocates have a brain or three active brain cells rub together and make a spark. It's bad for all of us because we should be applauding Powell right now for what he's trying to do. Even if he is just trying to save the Fed's ass. Because the attendant effects, the secondary, tertiary, quaternary effects, third, second, third, fourth, fifth order effects of what he's already done have set in motion an entire raft of good things that comport with the ethos of the sound money crowd. And I know that's a tough pill to swallow because you just want to have because everybody needs to have their oppositional thinking. I'm a good person because I don't like the Fed and I like Bitcoin. That's nice. But really, how about you're a good person regardless of what you think of the Fed or Bitcoin? And maybe just because you have that position means you're actually not a good person. Because you're not actually, I mean, I'm not here to judge anybody because I don't know. But I'm asking you to look into yourself. Are you using your time productively to help your community in real and fundamental ways? Are you trying not just educate people by Bitcoin, by Bitcoin, by Bitcoin? No. Like, what are you doing? What do you do for a living? What business are you in? What's more important to you? Like, because it should be the people in your life. What should drive you is the desire to help humanity. And you don't really give a shit what tool you use to get there. It doesn't have to be any one tool. It can be any tool. And some tools are going to be better than other tools at different moments in time. And you should be open to using the tool because I got news for you. You know, you can't use a hammer to drive a screw. I built a house. I know what that feels like. I had to have like a whole tool belt with different things on my, like literally the hammer, the screwdriver, the thing. I had to have all this stuff, right? I have to have a level. You can't use them all. You can't use one tool to do everything. Bitcoin is not that tool. And I don't give a shit what anybody says. It's not. And if you're recoiling to me saying that right now, you need therapy. You don't need more Bitcoin. If you're getting triggered by me saying that on a Bitcoin podcast, I'm sorry. That's your problem, not mine. I love Bitcoin, but I understand its limitations, and I understand there's a time and place for all of it, for it and for gold and for everything else, and for goats and for all of it. Like, I'm at a point now, and this to open up the podcast, for example. You told a small fib at the beginning. I no longer own any goats. I finally got rid of them all because my life has moved on from that portion of my life has moved on from being an amateur goat farmer, because it was not a productive use of my time. It wasn't good for them. It wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for my wife. And they went to good homes. They'll be productive and cared for better. And that's that. And I don't, I miss them. And maybe at some point I'll go and get a couple of wethers and stick them out on my field so I don't have to pay my friend Brad to bush hog my pasture. And, I'll slaughter a couple of goats one day, or I won't. And I'll pay my friend Brad to bush hog my pasture. Right. And I don't have to do it all myself. And I keep my friend Brad in business because he's important to me, because he maintains my driveway and, raises my cows that I eat. So, like, these things are important. And that's the thing I'm talking about here. We're not, it's really, we are at a moment in time where it's about community first and everything else second. And all of these things that we've discussed so far tonight are all in service of trying to figure out how best we can serve the people around us, and to figure out how we talk across the political divide with those who don't see it yet, and get better at communicating with them. Because all you can do is lead a horse to water. You can't make them drink. Right? So, and by leading by example, personal example, that's how you win. And that's how you convert people. You'll never convert people to Bitcoin by just telling them how good it is and read this book. No. Or whatever it is that's important to you. You got to demonstrate in the real world that you're a person of value who cares about things just as deeply as they do. You may not care about the same things to the same extent, but that's how you open lines of communications with people. And that's how you make long-lasting new friends and build communities, because these people are clearly, Davos, are clearly trying to break us down and create false dichotomies. And this whole gold versus Bitcoin thing is just dumb. Like I said earlier, why are you cheering the failure of the box office failure of a well-intentioned Indiana Jones movie? It's dumb. Lucasfilm was important. It was important to keeping Hollywood, to keeping storytelling alive for 50 years in one of the most powerful mediums ever, and stick it in the eye of the old corporate system. And guess what? They're trying to kill it. And you're being gaslit into helping them. So you're being gaslit as Bitcoiners to wanting to shit on gold bugs when Bitcoin's rallying. It's the same thing. It's dumb. It's a false dichotomy. Don't fall for it. Don't be gaslit by morons. Bad.
I agree with everything you said. I'm going to reframe a little bit of it in my way of thinking about it. There was an episode on Marty Ben's show, Tales from the Crypt. I forget the guest's name. He was Ben something. I thought it was Ben something. It was a great guest, and he was kind of taking the adversarial approach to Bitcoin, but he had just fantastic analogies and metaphors. And one of them was, he had been sort of a Wall Street guru, made some money, moved out to the country and bought a farm and was relaxing, had some dogs, and talked to how, the dogs think they're so smart. They're raised at home. They have an electric fence, and the coyotes outside are way smarter than the domesticated dogs. And piss and shit near the electric fence, and they're trying to draw the dogs out, and they're going to be outsmart the dogs. And one time, even his wife went outside like to scare off the coyotes and bang some pans and the penny jar and shit. The coyotes looked at her like, what are you doing? And they're super smart, and they drift off, and they're going to win this battle every time. Except, you call 311 and pet control comes and they sneak up behind the coyote and shoot it behind the ear. And then, coyote thinks he's so smart until it's over. And you don't want to outsmart yourself. And I also agree that, kind of sitting on your ass and not doing much with your life is not really any sort of output or has any value. And I think about it like people say hold or hodl, build or biddle. You should be building a family, a life, a career, adding values to society. And I agree that Bitcoin is just a tool, as a hammer is, and there's a rabbinical proverb: you give a 2-year-old, you want to teach them about power and being able to build, but they can't build at 2, maybe at 3 or 4, but at 2 they can destroy. You can give them a hammer and show them the strength of the hammer, and they can destroy things, right? You could build with a hammer, you could destroy, you could build with $1, you could destroy with $1, and all these things, and they're just a tool.
You can build with Bitcoin, and you can destroy people with Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I think about Trace Mayer, a long forgotten Bitcoiner, and Goldbug, famous Goldbug, who turned Peter Schiff on, I think, to Bitcoin very early on, or not turned him on to it, maybe turned him off. Right. But he talked a lot about how gold is so important in the culture of India, where they have some gold and they just literally pet it, and they want to feel it grow, and it's got this physical sort of aura, and you connect with it, and it's passed down through generations. But all of that is through reserves or positive cash flows. You're not doing that when you're in negative cash flows, and that's the purpose of a reserve tool. And this tool could be very, but I do think of this tool as a Rosetta Stone of sorts. It's very powerful. And I think of it as an additive property to all those things we just talked about.
Yes.
And before that, I think about my wife is my first Rosetta Stone, or my first Bitcoin. My kids are Bitcoins to me, right? Sure. And they're higher than, Bitcoin. Great. So I definitely agree with you in all that you said. And it's just, that's my way of thinking about it as well, that it's very important. And all these things that, hard money, gold could be used in the same sort of way, and you can connect with it. But I really want to talk about the election.
It's really funny. We'll talk about the election in just a second. Just one last anecdote about this one. Yesterday, I do therapy twice a month, every second Wednesday, and I was sitting there chatting with my therapist yesterday. 9 times out of 10, it's mostly me just filibustering and just brain dumping on the poor guy, right? And but every once in a while we oh yeah, that was powerful, that was important, you did good there. I said to him, I said, if you've ever never done this, like, there's something very powerful that happens, like holding your first child when you hold a gold coin in your hand for the first time. Something weird happens. And I've seen it. I've done it. It happened to me, and I've done it to a dozen people. And I told them, I said, one of these days I'll come in with a gold sovereign. I'll drop it in your hands. You're like, whoa, and it'll change you. And you'll all of a sudden go, I want more of these. And you'll understand it. And we're very divorced from our money is very divorced from us, who we are. It's digits, and it's a ledger entry somewhere. This is one of the arguments against Bitcoin as a tool, by the way. And it's not that it's not a downside. It is a thing. It's the highest expression of that kind of money, right? But there is something kind of lost in translation. So, I've always kind of been, in many ways, kind of interested in the idea of, the physical coin with the UTXO amount and the address on the thing to drop it on people and have it be made out of a fucking tungsten or whatever, just so it has that similar tangible weight as gold, right? That's why I always find it funny. Now that I think about it, it's interesting that even in Star Wars, for example, they always use real, honest to God credit like these bars, right, of different colors and denote different denominations. They still use hard money even in Star Wars, even if they're only called credits, but they're they still use cash, right? Especially in the underworld, they still use cash everywhere. So very interesting that's still it's part of the ethos, even the way Star Wars operates, and it would make sense in the way of the way Star Wars as a construct, as a physical construct in the world, the used universe that it exists, and it makes sense. So, but okay, all my pop culture stuff, throw it aside. The election, I just don't, when you think about all of that, what's really clear is that they want to divorce us from all of these things that matter to us. They want to divorce us from all the things that make us, make society. They want to remake us into the new Soviet man or whatever the latest version of it is, right? And the election is just going to be another one of those things to drive us insane, regardless of what actually happened. We'll never know the truth about what happens in the election. The results will be handed to us, and we will be forced to accept them, regardless of what they are, regardless of the reality of them, because we'll never know the reality of them. And all rational discussion about what actually did or did not happen and blah, 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 blah will not matter, because the goal will have been achieved that we will have to accept yet another thing that we know in our hearts isn't real. And because unless, of course, they're somehow able to continue to push the basketball of perception of their evil underwater even farther for longer and keep enough people in the bubble effectively, oh, no, really, the world really does work like this. And it's like they're trying to continually push even harder on the basketball below the surface of the water. And that's what they're doing. And they're expending unbelievable amounts of energy to do this. And the good news is, of course, is that every day they have to expend more energy to get less result, because that's the nature of the problem that they've set for themselves. So when I think about the election, at that, at a mechanistic level, or at a metaphoric level, that's what I see coming in the future. And I'm almost immune to talking, or I'm almost allergic to talking about the various tactics and strategies that will be employed. I'll do it at some point, but I just think we're too far out from it to care at this point. It's more important that we set the stage thematically and kind of metaphorically about the election, and know what because the stakes are unbelievable for them. So they're going to pull out every stop imaginable. They're going to pre-record and precede the final outcome just the same way they did the first time. Like in 2020, they told us in July how they were going to steal the election. They published an article in Axios explaining how it was going to happen. And then it happened exactly like that, because they told us how they were going to ballot harvest, and then they did it. And enough people accepted it because they didn't want to, deal with the responsibility of believing otherwise. So, all right, no, we'll just accept it.
All right. Well, I want to tweak that a little bit. So
sure.
I want to talk a little bit about gold, though. One of the ways I've kind of thought about Bitcoin and gold is, if I discovered gold, I went up into the hills and I found this gold mine, and gold was overflowing at this moment from the mine. I didn't even have to open the mine. It's just overflowing. And I bring back a bucket of gold. And, I said, this is obviously better than everything we've used for money and found or for collectibles. And I want 10 cents a rock, or whatever you're trading me in. And they say, oh, 10 cents, it sounds like you got it for free. You just went up there, you found it and whatever. So I sell it at 10 cents. I come back the next day. Everyone loves it. I sell it at 11 cents, 12 cents. But the more I go up there, the harder it is for me to get. I got to put more work into it. Now I got to bring more labor, maybe more hire people. I got to pay them, maybe front the money, borrow the money, whatever, bring it back down the hill. I want to raise my prices. No one wants to raise the prices. Eventually, though, people catch on that this is better than the thing, and that I'm telling the truth. That is better. It has the principles. It's going to last longer. They've seen that over time. And I think that's kind of where we are with Bitcoin. It's just a newfangled thing. People don't really understand it. People who've discovered it are trying to share it with others. But
Agreed.
in terms of, we've talked, I think, historically, he who has the gold makes the rules. I mean, it is very powerful. Once you feel that gold, it's just so heavy compared to anything else. It's just like intrinsic, and it's weird. It's just a rock. It's why do we value it more than that? I think we intrinsically know it's harder to find and get than anything else on earth. We don't have to even be told the way
We
it
know
sparkles.
we know it represents a tremendous amount of work from somebody else to have gotten that thing into existence, and that because of that, it has the potential to, be powerful.
Yeah. So I have just a few more questions for you, but like thinking, when I was growing up too, though, like thought a lot about money and things like gold. And, my brother gave me fake gold and I brought it to school and I told everyone it was real gold. He lied to me. It was really, it was great. It was heavy. It was huge. People were like, that's worth too much money to be real. But, but I was also got infatuated with things like Alcatraz or JFK, and just what do you think about this election in terms of the candidates? And the way I'll frame that up is, I feel like Trump was just unbearable from going to family dinners and whatever you want to say about whatever. It was just a hard 4 years. And I feel like Biden, whatever you want to say about Biden, has just been a more benign couple of years from that perspective.
I don't know, not in my household, but
maybe not in your household. But very interesting is RFK Jr. to me. I'm not saying I'm going to vote for him or vote for any candidate, but and I have problems or issues with some of his takes, but he's been very interesting with a lot of takes, and I think it does provide hope, and maybe it would restore some sort of
RFK is an interesting, RFK is an interesting person. I'm not crazy about him. I am at the point now. I would be fine with him being the Democratic candidate. I would be fine with. I don't think he will.
Or is this like Teddy in 1980? Like
I don't think it's possible. I think it's.
So then, what is he doing? What do you think he's in?
Well, what is he doing then? I don't know. I mean, what is he doing?
Why is he risking his life for this? I mean,
well, why did Trump do what he did? Why does Putin do what he does? Because maybe that is who he's become and who he needs to be. And why do we do what we do?
Fair enough.
I know why I do it. I know that I've had the FBI on my door when I used to write for Russian think tanks. I know that there's a certain angle on my work that will always potentially put me in a position where I may get, a knock on the door, remanded to Guantanamo and waterboarded. It is what it is. Why do we do what we do? Because we believe it's the right thing to do, and it's the thing we can't not do. Right? Why do writers write? Because they can't not write. Right? Is the way it was always described to me, and to me that's the perfect metaphor. Being a writer, it's kind of fun, but it doesn't really matter. Why do actors act? Why do directors direct? Why do people tell stories? Why do they do what they do? Why do engineers engineer things? Right? Because they can't not do it. It's a calling. It's a thing. It's their way of saying, this is how I make the world a better place. So RFK Jr. may be a person at a moment in time, and we'll find out that whether this is true or not. And I don't have a good answer for this. If this is, if it's worth this moment in his time, this in his life, to run and try to break the Democratic Party machine, which he thinks he can do. You go listen to the Joe Rogan podcast, just listen to the last 20 minutes when he's talking about how Trump ran. It'll tell you that he already understands the strategy. He's doing it.
I think
I'm watching him. He's doing it. And because he's doing it, they're going to have a problem. And, we'll see. They're going to have a lot of work to do if they have to rig the Democratic primaries again, that they have to do this, that they have to do all that stuff. Can they get it done? Probably. Can they will President Poopy Pants even make it out of December alive? Who knows? Will, he be impeached and indicted for treason, which is what he deserves, which is what should be happening to him right now if we were a nation of laws with people of conscience running it. We are neither. What does that mean? So what they're setting up is very simple. They're either setting up Trump to be arrested 6 weeks before the election in order to stop him from winning, and to make everybody understand, abandon all hope, ye who enter here. We're in charge, not you. Fuck you. Which is what they say to us all the time. Oh, by the way, we're going to rub your nose. And we're going to give you Joe Biden again. Even though, the man doesn't even know where he is. Or they're going to block Trump from becoming the nominee in the first place, not even let him into the GOP convention, give it to Nikki Haley or some other idiot, and burn the GOP to the ground, force Trump and RFK to run third party on a ticket together, or force RFK into the role of John Anderson with Tulsi Gabbard to get 5 to 7% of the national vote, and allow the neocon that they put up, the new John McCain, to take the election. Because, it's not an election if both choices are fundamentally the same. They don't care who wins them. All they care about is what narrative they have to craft around each one, which they've already done. That's the way the system works. If you don't like it, then everybody who's listening to my voice that's ever said anything nasty about anybody who showed up on January 6th, you owe them an apology. Because that's all they were doing. The rest of it was a psyop. We live in supposedly a free and democratic society where we're allowed to protest against what's supposed, about things our government does. Really? Huh. Is that air you think you're breathing? That's cute. So I again, I'm like, I don't mean to be, I'd love to, tell the story that Luke blows up the freaking Death Star and, and Leia's not his sister, and they ride off happily ever after destroying the Emperor. But guess what? That's not what happened. Even the original trilogy didn't survive contact with the enemy. So I don't know, man. I just I'm at that point where I'm like, it's yet another false thing to divide us over. There are good people stepping up. I see it. There are bad people. There are good people working behind the scenes to stop World War III. I see it. Is the bureaucratic inertia too much to overcome? I don't have an answer for that. I really wish I did. I don't. I may have a better answer in 3 months or 6 months. But right now, in July, I'm just happy that we didn't start World War III the other day.
Well, that leads me to my next question. So I don't think there were any outsiders. I don't include Trump or RFK as an outsider. I'm just not sure. It's interesting. Like Tulsi Gabbard, she supports RFK Jr. I saw her speak. She is still in the United States military service, and the unit she serves in is the United States Army Civil Affairs and Psychological Operations Command. Literally the PSYOP unit. So I don't know what to make of Tulsi or who she supports or why the U.S. government or the military would want that message out. I think anything she says would be ran by them just based on her position. But, you bring up World War III a lot, or not a lot, but a little bit. And do you think a civil war is in our future in the United States?
I think that's what they're trying to goad us into. I don't want it to happen. I want to wake enough people up to say, you know what? No, we're not going to do that. No, Joe Biden, you're not going to raise taxes on Florida to the point where you're going to bail out California. No, we're going to kick California the fuck out of the union, and we're going to let them fall into their own, shitstorm on their own. No, we're not going to do that. But I have all the power, and you can hear you can hear these freaking Nazis over in Germany and in Europe literally screaming, but you will eat the bugs. You will do what we tell. No, we will not. We will make fun of you and make memes of you and say no. And that's what I see. That's what I hope for. I hope everybody stops being gaslit by these people into believing all of their overlapping psyops are actually real, because they're really not all that powerful. Just let Powell raise interest rates to 7% for Christ's sake, and we bankrupt these motherfuckers. Who cares if the budget blows out? Fire everybody in Congress and cut spending and go back to the pre-COVID budget. And we give ourselves another 10 years worth of runway over the unfunded liabilities of Social Security and Medicare. That's the math. It doesn't mean that the math winds up being terminal to 25 years from now. Fuck, we'll deal with 25 years from now. 25 years from now. I'm not interested in solving a 5-dimensional differential equation on the budget solvency of the United States in 2023 for 2047. Because a lot happens between 2023 and 2047. So if you want to be right about that, that's great. Spurg boy, you're wrong. Because shit happens between now and then. Because a whole lot of people look up and go, you know what? No, that's not going to, we're not going to let that happen. And those people are clearly trying right now to stop that from happening. Because if it was going to happen the way you tell me it's going to happen, Ukraine today would be on a path to NATO membership. And it's not. Powell wouldn't be at 5.5%. We're about to go to 5.5%. Like, he doesn't need to start cutting interest rates until the middle of 2025, when most of the debt needs to be rolled over at a higher rate. He doesn't need to. Yes, the budget is blowing out to the downside. The American people have made it very clear they don't want us running a $2 trillion a year deficit. The only people who want this are shitbag European commies and traders in Washington, D.C. who work for them. And most of them are over 80 years old. So how about, like, it can be done. It's not going to be easy. And the other thing that no one wants to accept is that if the United States were to signal to the world that we're willing to begin getting our house in order, capital would flow in here to help us get it done, because no one wants to see us fail. Not the Russians. I got news for you. The Russians, the Chinese, the Indians, no one wants to see the United States fail except the Europeans and the Brits, because they want their fucking colonies back. The Chinese want to sell us cheap crap. The Russians want to sell us oil and wipe the world of the limeys. That's what the Russians want to do. It's not that hard. They've made it abundantly clear what they want to do. They've offered us a way out on this time and time again. And time again, we have people who are in the throes of either the Khazari fucking mafia or the Brits, basically the same thing, saying, no, we can't do that. Why? Because we said so. Why? Because we control everything. All right, fuck you. Then we'll bankrupt. Then I got a Gentile at the head of the Fed going, raise interest rates to 7%. Did you want me to go there? That's where I went. That's as far as I'll go on that. And it's not even true, by the way. It's only half true. It just made everybody happy. Like, it's Guys, it's not that hard. It can be done. It can be done. It doesn't have to end in civil war. It doesn't have to. It could end in the dissolution of the United States as a 50-state compact. But it should happen on our terms, not their terms. On our time frame, not their time frame. And the millennial generation behind me and the Zoomers behind them are open to that idea because they don't give a shit. They're not married to the idea of the myth of America. They've had the myth of America has betrayed them 18 ways from Sunday. They don't give a fuck about America anymore, clearly. But I can tell you one thing. They care more about where they live than the idea of America. Now, that may be a psyop to get them to that point. That may be them being psyop to get to that point. But, they're not stupid. They can still go, the Constitution's a really good idea. We just don't follow it. It's got some problems. We can get rid of the 3/5 clause and all this other stuff that makes people crazy and rewrite the damn thing. We can clean up all the weird amendments, all the ones after the Bill of Rights. The rest of it seems pretty good. Not a bad idea. Maybe need to be tweaked. But the basic concept of we, the people, are superior to the federal government, that's the one we keep. Everything else is negotiable. And you really start drilling in to what, and these, I'm telling you, I can feel that. There's so much of this, like, yeah, fuck it. I might as well, it's not going to get any better. I might as well be a man-child. And it sucks that you've got 40-year-olds in this society like that. I get it. I know it sucks. But guess what? When shit turns around, they're at least self-aware of why they are the way they are. When I was 40, I didn't really, 30, I didn't really know why I was the way I was. Why I felt so goddamn betrayed by everything. Today, I now know. If we've done anything, my generation's done anything, it's to explain it really well to the ones coming behind us who felt it when they watched their parents go broke 3 times in the last 20 years. Which is why they're all rabid, which is why many of them are rabid Bitcoiners and with a almost religious fervor. And I get it. You need something to believe in. If you lose, if a person loses their religion, they find a new one every freaking time. Why? Because people need them. And the Klaus von Schnitzels of this fucking world do not understand that. They think they can just beat it out of us. They think they can breed it out of us. And they can't. They'll outsmart themselves and get shot in the back of the head like the coyote in the thing. Like, that's what's going to happen. And when that happens, it'll be a good thing for everybody. But we've got a lot of cross currents. And, I have a budget proposal for everyone. Ready? We'll cut the Defense Department budget in half. We'll take 20% of that money. And I don't believe in government funded welfare for anything, but government funded fucking therapy for everybody who's got PTSD over the American empire. And just get it out of your system. If I could go along one thing, it would be psychotherapy. People just look. There's a lot going through people's heads. We've all been driven functionally insane about all this crap, and it's been done to us on purpose. And we now have like instant response engines that drive us crazy on a day-to-day basis. Most people call it Twitter. And so, think it through. There's ways of doing this. We don't need to maintain 800 bases around the world. We don't need to maintain all of this stuff. We don't need to do any of that. We don't need to maintain the vast bureaucracies of the Pentagon and all the secret projects and all the intelligence service scraping of all of our data and then creating AI bots to feed us back our anxieties in the form of fake hot chicks on Twitter telling us that we're we're bad people. Like, this is what they're doing. This is what they're doing with our money. This is what they're doing with our time. This is what they're doing with our lives. And they're selling it back to us at 5 cents an hour, and it's not even real. You think you're so fucking smart about Bitcoin? Go read all of Philip K. Dick and then get back to me. Go back and read Ubik, The Man in the High Castle. Go back and read all those books. Go back and read Now Wait for Last Year, for Christ's sake. It's not even a good book, but it'll describe American politics to a friggin' T. Because every bit of this, he told us all this back in the 60s that they were going to do this to us. And then they did it. And it's here. And we're living in it right now. And I got news for you. In 5 years, Alexa's going to be asking you for a friggin' tip. Alexa, play me the Rolling Stones. 5 cents, please. I'll do that for 5 cents, Dave. No, I'm not. But that's a tip, right? No. It's in your contract. We changed the EULA. It's now a service fee. When the microwave starts asking for tips for me to cook my food for me, I fucking leave. We're done. Everybody should read Ubik. You'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. 40 pages in, you'll see the scene. You'll be like, oh my God. I'm serious, but that's the world we've created. It's already here. And that was absurdist back in 1969. Now it's reality. And so, do you really think you have choice? Or do you think that hundreds of choices are put in front of you on Amazon on purpose to drive you functionally insane because you can't make a decision? But then eventually you then scroll through all these bad choices until you finally pick the one they wanted you to choose in the first place. And you've wasted 4 hours. Ever notice how search engines have gotten worse? You can't ever find any information out of a search engine anymore. You have to bookmark and curate everything. And keep your own freaking Library of Alexandria on my partner, Dexter White. He's like, dude, you have no idea how many tabs I have open on my browsers. I'm like, really? If I have more than 10, I start just shutting them down reflexively, and I lose links. He's like, I can't do that. I'm too OCD. He's got hundreds of tabs open at one time. I think he buys bigger Macs in order to be able to just handle the amount of memory it takes to keep his browser running. That's the world we live in, because you can't get anything out of you can't trust anything anymore. So I don't know.
It's all too much at times. So I'll have my final question for you, Tom. This has been incredibly dope. This has been so fantastic. I love talking about being shot behind the head, being too clever. Something you teased out. No, that's not where the questions go. But
it's funny. We have to keep bringing this one back up. Tattooed in the back of the neck. Okay.
Well, it's something to look out for, and you could be really smart. It doesn't mean that there's not someone smarter behind you. And it's very interesting how you've kind of teased out this notion that maybe Bitcoin was pumped up on purpose to create a cryptomania, to start a transition to CBDCs, if not to create an entire, a new monetary system outside the Fed. And all the implications of this and inner factions. I mean, it's really it's titillating to think about.
Yeah.
And you mentioned sort of the abundance of choice, and Radiohead talked. One of my favorite bands, Radiohead, kind of talked a lot about it. You walk down the supermarket aisle, and there's so much choice. But at the end of the day, you have the paralysis of analysis and choice. But you also have they're all owned by the same 4 companies,
right?
So you think you're choosing, but they're choosing what's put in front of you and what you get to choose from. So amongst all that, and there's so much more we could have covered, but just amongst all that, like what are you optimistic about? What advice would you give to people today? How to spend their time, or what to focus on, or what maybe to get some joy out of the world. I mean,
I get plenty of joy out of the world every day. I've got a 17-year-old daughter who I adore, and I've got a wife that I adore, and I've got dogs that I adore, and I've got, and I still take great pleasure in ingesting stories that are well told. And there are some out there, folks. Not everything that comes out of Hollywood is woke crap, by the way. Some of it's very good. And not everything is and not every movie you go to see is a political statement you're making either. Oh, by the way, Like, there's plenty of things. Did the sun shine? Did the sun get up? Did the sun shine this morning? It didn't rain here in Florida for the first time in like a week and a half. Like, there's plenty of things to be thankful for. There are people in my life that are phenomenal. There's still, the lights are still running. I can still do this job from home. I got all these things to be thankful for. But understand this. Lies are expensive and the truth sells itself. Bitcoin sells itself because it's truth. But lies are expensive. You have to spend energy to lie to people. You have to expend energy to convince people to do things that are not in their best interest and drive them functionally insane. And eventually, they decide to either get better or give up. And they're hoping that you give up. But you can always get better. So, again, all those Philip K. Dick books I just referenced are all about men who had effectively given up and had to find their way back to themselves. They're all great stories of redemption in the face of overwhelming odds and overwhelming psychological torture, in effect, from a societal and interpersonal level. That's what these books are all about at their core. And that's where we have to, that is where we have to maintain our sanity. Just look, you can torture me. You can do all these things to me. But if every day that I get invited onto another podcast, or I get another email that says, new patron, $125 a year. And I go, oh, cool. Why another person that I know that I reached to help them across the divide from ignorance to something better, even if they don't grok the whole thing, even if they don't get it all, even if they don't ever get there, even if they disagree with me about 75% of it. Great. You're doing something that has moved people to do a thing and inspired them to be better. And it's another person looking to jack out of the matrix, but not go to the false dyad of Zion. Just jack out of the matrix. And if we can teach people how to think better along the way and regain their ability to think like critical humans, it will be a life well lived and a task well served. You don't always do a brilliant job of it. And I know I filibustered here on a certain number of issues, and I'm not sure that I should have spent as much time on as I had, but you do, you're constantly trying to be better at whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to do in this life in order to, make it all one coherent message. And that message is, you've got all the power. They don't. They have to spend all their waking hours trying to figure out how they can gaslight you into doing something stupid. Don't let them. Again, you can go see both Sound of Freedom and Indiana Jones, and no one will tear up your conservative cred card. For example, if that's the one this week. 6 months ago, it could have been a different thing. But that's the one that's out there right now. Conservatives are becoming just as bad about these things as libs were 2 years ago. Exactly what I hoped we wouldn't do. And we fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. We're now hoping Disney fails. Why? What, are you out of your mind? Why? They're a victim. They're a victim of this. They're a victim of this shit just as much as anybody else is. They're a victim of the fact that they can't get financing for good movies anymore. Because who controls the purse strings for the money to make the $250 million movie? Did you ever ask that question? If you're not asking those questions, you're not reacting to the reality that's in front of you. You're reacting to the false narrative being projected on the screen in the wall in Socrates' cave, and you believe that those chains around your wrists are real, and that reality isn't behind you. Bitcoin's supposed to cure you of this. And guess what? The people I ranted about earlier don't even realize that Bitcoin's being used by those people to keep you in that chair with the metaphoric chains. And you're not really free. You just think you are. You really want to be free. You have to be as ungovernable as fucking possible. And you have to not believe a word these people say ever. And then force them to prove to you that they told you the truth once. And reality is that, again, Bitcoin is not your end. Bitcoin is a means to an end. It's a savings instrument. It's a path to wealth. What is real wealth? People, land, access to food, water, predictability. That's what real wealth is. And I know that Bitcoin is a path, is a tool to get you there. I get it. I agree with it in every way, manner, shape, and form. But it's not the only tool to that path, to that end. It's just not. And none of it. And yeah, neither is gold. None of them are. That's in here. And that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. That's what I'm like, like if I can get that message, I don't know, not just that message, but all the way that's wrapped, get that through to people, dude, I'm like, it's a day well served. And the last time I was on your show, Cedric, like I got a massive response off it. So like when you finally called to say, hey, let's do another one. I'm like, couldn't jump at the opportunity to be back on your show again. That not simply because you do a great job of promoting your guests and promoting your work. So, and I thank you for it. And I wish I was as good at that part of this whole thing as but I'm not. So, but you are. So, and that's to your credit. And, so if I haven't meaning to tell you that for a while, I was like, I consistently sat there months after the last time I was on, and I kept seeing the clips that you pulled and the way they propagated coming back to me through my Twitter feed. And I was just singularly impressed by it because it was really well done. And it aside from the fact that it actually made me look coherent, like it was cool. And it was, and I'm like, I need a staff. I don't have one. So there you go.
Well, I really appreciate that and the kind words. I mean, I do this on top of my full-time fiat mining career. And so,
yeah, of course.
But, I do honestly, I look to what you've carved out, and I look to you as an example of a lot of things I'd like to learn and do more so than a lot of other people in this space. Just, I don't know if it's our similarities or just how you kind of did it as a maverick. Couple of things that came to mind there, though, is a quote: luxury and lies have maintenance costs, but truth and simplicity are self-maintained without any cost.
There you go.
And, we didn't get to the Ripple case, but I think that's embedded in there. We didn't get to the BlackRock ETF, Bitcoin ETF, and what that means for Davos, which Luke Mikic wanted to ask, and an update on the state of Davos, which I think we got to. One thing I wanted to get to, though, is just entropy and lies is like, what Bitcoin could do, like even just Michael Saylor really blew me away with how he looked at MicroStrategy and putting on a Bitcoin standard. So, you have this boring business. It's kicking off $50 million a year on, a $1 billion base. It's not a lot. It's 5%. It's okay. And you got
right.
2,000 people busting their ass to make $50 million a year. And that's okay. And that's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But, you put that on a Bitcoin standard, and all of a sudden, two things happen. One, you take a boring business that can now roll out the Lightning Network and Bitcoin to corporations, and what they're trying to do, I think, is really visionary. And now you can take a boring business and make it dynamic and innovative. But what you could also do is just power it with Bitcoin as a tool. So now they own 150,000 Bitcoin. When Bitcoin goes up $1,000, they make 150 in equity. I mean, that's 3 years of sweat and blood and tears that they could just make in a blink, and what the power of that tool can do. So, I think it's just astounding,
as you're simply because you're early in the process of Bitcoin finding its total addressable market.
Yep.
And
putting it to use.
But again, that goes for the iPhone, that goes for, any disruptive technology.
Yep. All of it. So I can't tell you how much I've appreciated you coming on the show. I think we'll have to do it again. There's so much more to get to. There's a whole bunch of user questions on Twitter or Twitter comments that I would love to get to. But this has just been so dope. Let people know where they could find you and your work before we roll out.
Sure. You can find me at on my blog at tomluongo.me. You can follow me on Twitter at TFL1728, where the worst version of me exists on a day-to-day basis. And I go out of my way to put just the most obnoxious version of myself on Twitter as imaginable, because if that works, well, then cool. And then you can of course sign up, as you mentioned at the beginning, at the Patreon at Patreon/Goats and Guns, which is honestly where most of the magic happens, because I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes, behind the paywall for my patrons on a weekly basis, and tie all this stuff up with real, honest to God technical analysis of the strategic markets. And I do bespoke chart reads for people and all the rest of it, and then I have the community that's behind me, right? And we have a private Slack server for them, and it's great, and it's dynamic, and people challenge me on a regular basis, and they bring the world to me. So I don't have to go and find it. I got a couple hundred dedicated people who just love hanging out together and finding shit all around the world and bringing stuff to me. And my Twitter feed is now that too. It's crazy how much help I get now in doing the work and me trying to do the work that needs to be done, because I can't possibly do it on my own. I now have people who pay me to do research for me. It's crazy. But but that only happens because I guess I did it right. You know what I mean? By inspiring them, to give them a platform through which to see their view of the world and affect my view of the world through them. And that's the big thing. And I've said for a long time, Cedric, it's something that I fundamentally believe why these people will always fail. And it's because they may be the smartest people in the room, but they're not smarter than the room. The room is bigger than them. It's smarter than them. In the aggregate, many of the people in the room are smarter than them in the individual. They just happen to think that they have a small room that concentrates power and insight and insouciance and wisdom, and that they get it all, and then they just propagate it out, and they use the friggin' banhammer to enforce it. When we're sitting there going, okay, we can see you're doing that. Now we're going to go over there, and now you got to deal with that, and that's going to cost you billions. Now what do you do? And what happens, God forbid, that you don't get control of the one guy who says, you know what, I can help them because I can make more money with them, or I can have a better life with them. And, seriously, at some point, someone read the room at the Federal Reserve and went, you know what, we're better served with them than with them. That's all that happened. And I'm dead serious when I believe that that's what happened. So.
Love to see how it plays out. We'll have you back sometime soon.
Whenever you want, dude, I'm here. Especially since you like to do this at night when I'm usually done with all my other work. So I'm happy to do an evening cast.
I'll reach out soon. Yeah, we'll definitely catch a rip soon. It's been so dope.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Yo, that's a wrap on today's episode of the Bitcoin Matrix podcast with guest Tom Luongo. We hope you found it informative and engaging. I'd like to take a moment to thank you, our listeners, for tuning in and supporting us. I couldn't do it without you. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Bitcoin Matrix podcast.